So in the same way that a building needs strong foundations in order to stay in place and to be lived in, a human being also needs strong foundations in order to be able to handle life. And when someone has strong foundations, they will be like a big ship on the ocean. Whereas when they don't, they will be like a rubber dinghy. And so when it comes to the former, they will be strong and stable, and even the big waves won't really have much of an effect. Whereas when it comes to the latter, they will be tossed around even by the small waves. And so when someone has strong foundations, they will be able to handle most of the ups and downs of life. And so even when something dramatic does take place, they won't end up being toppled over. They won't end up going into panic and fear and anxiety. They will be able to handle it, so they will be resilient. They will have an inner strength and the ability to handle their emotions. And this will then allow them to make good decisions, and they won't need to live in survival mode. Whereas when someone doesn't have strong foundations, it won't take something big to topple them over. And even if there is nothing dramatic taking place externally, there can be all kinds of storms and earthquakes taking place internally. And this can then make it hard for them to make good decisions, and they can spend a lot of time in survival mode. So they can often experience fear and anxiety and even terror. And they can find it hard to be by themselves because they will need to latch onto other people. Because if they're not around someone else, they won't be able to settle themselves down. So this can mean that they will be very dependent on others, and it might not really bother them who they spend time with, as long as they are with someone and are not left to handle their own inner discomfort by themselves. And when it comes down to why someone would find it hard to be secure on the inside, and why they would be like a rubber dinghy in the ocean, this can be due to what took place during their early years. And so this may have been a time when they were often abused and neglected, and so they would have been deprived of the nutrients that they needed in order to grow and develop in the right way. So instead of being loved and cared for and protected, they would have often been isolated and harmed and perhaps put down. And so this would have been a stage of their life that was brutal. And as they were in an underdeveloped state, they needed to receive the right nutrients in order to develop a strong core, in order to develop inner security. So through being insecure on the inside and having people around them who were secure and who could settle down their nervous system, so who could soothe them, they would have gradually been able to develop a strong core. But as this wasn't the case, they would have ended up going into survival mode, and most of their energy would have gone into being able to handle what was going on, as opposed to them being able to just be and to grow and develop. So for this time to be a stage of their life when they were able to have fun and to play. And so although this stage of their life will now be over, all the pain and the trauma, so the arousal that they experienced through being traumatized and the effect that this had on their brain and nervous system, will now make it more or less impossible for them to feel at ease. And they may only feel at ease if they are taking something or engaging in some kind of activity that will settle them down. So if you can relate to this and you can see that your early years deeply traumatized you and prevented you from developing a strong core, then you may need to reach out for external support so that you can start to work through the pain that you had to repress and the arousal, so that you can gradually settle your brain and nervous system down, and you are able to start to develop inner security so that you can make better decisions, so that you can thrive, and to no longer be perhaps dependent on certain things and people, and so that you can live a great life. So please don't suffer in silence, and reach out for the assistance that you need to gradually change your life. If you would like to find out more about the services that I offer, please go to www.oliverjrcooper.co.uk or email me at info@oliverjrcooper.co.uk, and I'm looking forward to assisting you on your journey.